everyone, welcome to chapter 9. In this chapter, we are actually going to talk about how to bring videos and audios to our website and basically how to integrate them. Some of the things that we are going to learn in this chapter, we are going to actually talk about some of the benefits and limitation of multimedia in our website. You should be able to identify audio formats and video formats, as well as being able to describe a plugin. Also understand codecs. You should also understand how to create audio and video elements and how to identify some of the common audio attributes and video attributes as well. Also, we're going to discuss about the source element, and as well as at the end, you should be able to test your audio elements and video elements. So in this chapter, you have two labs that you're going to be working on, and in those two labs, you're going to basically integrate the audio and video element to your website. Also, maybe next week you can actually work on your portfolio and update it, and that's going to be your third part of the project, that you are going to update your portfolio using some sort of a multimedia on your portfolio. So let's look at why do we want to have these audio and videos integrated into our site. So sometimes they actually provide some creative opportunity to capture the attention of our audience. Sometimes the text might not explain that. So a lot of websites, they use multimedia, which is a combination of digital media, such as video, audio, and animation as well. So it can actually, help with the user experience. So video adds visual appeal, and people can pick up the information in like less than a few minutes rather than reading all these information. Also, audio on web pages, they can set a mood or tone and basically help the user to make a purchase maybe. So a lot of so why you might want to use these, so maybe sometimes you want to sell some product or services, so maybe a video can explain that much better than a text can. And also maybe there are sometimes you might want to put the audio on your web page, and again that audio gives some information very quickly and effectively than a text will do. So this is an example of national park website. So maybe you can write all about these national parks, but it's much easier when people can see it in a video format of all these beautiful parks that are out there. So you create series of video format. In here you have additional video on web pages, and then you have created it. Other things that a lot of people nowadays might use, and especially in academic setting, is actually podcast. So podcast is a series of audio or video clips that can be released in a sequence. And as I mentioned before, it's very popular maybe in terms of academic and corporate settings, maybe for training and things like that would be very useful. So this is an example of a podcast, from NPR maybe, that they can listen to these podcasts even if they are driving or something as well. So the next thing that we are going to talk about is how to create multimedia files. So you can actually create multimedia yourself, or you can find files that are already available. So if you create your own multimedia, you may not have to be concerned about the copyright or licensing agreement. But if you are going to use basically somebody else's content, you need to worry about that. So you can also maybe search for some multimedia files that maybe they are open to the public or things like that. So if you want to use if you want to create your own multimedia file, nowadays it's not very hard. You need to have a microphone and a software that can design the digital file. Maybe Audacity is one. It's free and it's open source. Adobe has one, and other softwares that are out there. There are a lot of softwares that now you can create this. Like I'm creating this on a screencast. So I'm creating this kind of a multimedia on a screencast, and then I bring it to the website. So you can use any other tools that you like. Again, you need to worry about the copyright licensing requirements. Even if you are bringing some portion of files that have been created professionally before, you need to think about understanding those copyright and licensing requirements. Video files can also be created very easily nowadays using a digital camcorder, maybe, or a digital camera, or you can even use your smartphone to create those clips and bring it on web pages. So in order to find multimedia resources on the web, you can actually look for free of copyright restriction search under public domain audio or video. So that is public, and you don't have to worry about, the licensing and all that. Also, there are other video edit applications such as Windows Movie Maker. That's another one maybe you can use. There are more, like Corel Video Studio has one as well. Magic Movie edX. This one that I'm creating, Screencast, all that is available to you. This is also, it's available for free as well. So in here, this is basically Adobe Pro that you are using. So you are using, this is the editing window normally, and this is the collection of the media files that you might bring it, and then you can drag and drop things and kind of bring your audio clips into it and create your own multimedia, really. Also, like other things, like some people nowadays, they use Mac a lot. So iMovie is another one, which is part of the iLife software, and it's a very low cost option that you can take a look at. There is also an iMovie app that's available from the App Store that you can download. Final Cut Pro X is also a video editor for Mac, and you can also use Adobe Premiere Pro as well, and that's another software that you can use. So there are a lot more, but I'm just naming some of them that are out there. There are a lot of them that offers a free trial period, so you can try downloading those free trial period and see if it's worth it for you and use them as well. So now let's look at embedded versus external media. So the embedded media is very similar to how you have insert the inline images. It's very similar to that. The embedded media files, they can appear within the web page along with the audio or video player controls. And sometimes users, they can use those controls to be able to play or stop the media whenever they want to. So the media files is embedded directly into the web page, so you can complement the audio or video clip resources with those images that are around. Before HTML5, the object element was used to insert embedded content, including multimedia, but in HTML5 it introduces two new elements which we are going to learn: audio and video elements. So this is just an alternative. Before we used to use the object element, and maybe a lot of us familiar with that, but now in HTML5 it's more improved, so you have audio and video to actually look at. With the external media, the person who visits the website, they can actually click on the link, and they can then decide whether to link directly to the external source, or maybe if they want to download the file. Unlike the embedded media, the external media is displayed out of context with the web page that contains that link. So using external link is very common in web development. So if the site that provides a lot of video resources, such as maybe YouTube, can use media files and then the embed element, which can define a container for an external application or interactive content, which we call it a plugin. So website visitors, they can click the link to access that external media files. So that's the difference. So we talked about this. We talked about embedding media. As I mentioned, you have video element and audio element in HTML5. Using external link, as we said, is a common practice in the development, and you can see that in sites such as YouTube. So now let's look at the media players and plugins. We said at the beginning that we are going to learn about plugins and be able to describe them. So to be able to play an audio and video, some browsers, they need help of some application that's called the media player or maybe a plugin. The plugin has to be available. A media player is a computer software that can be used to play those multimedia files. So most software media player supports an array of media format that can be maybe audio as well as video files. So sometimes you might have a MP3, which is an audio file. MP4 is a video file. Plugin also calls an add-in or maybe an adds-on. So sometimes you might call it the adds-on program. It's an extra software again to add it to the browser or maybe to the program to provide a capability that's not part of the browser. Plugin is also called adds-on, and for embedded media files to work in a browser, website visitor, they need to have the correct plugin installed. If they don't have it, maybe they have a hard time, with that media file. Common plugins are basically Windows Media Player, Apple QuickTime Player, Adobe Flash, Microsoft Silverlight, and Adobe Acrobat. So maybe if they don't have those plugins, they cannot play it, so they need to download those plugins first and then be able to use that. So for Internet Explorer, we use the ActiveX control. When the Internet Explorer encounters a multimedia file, it can search for that ActiveX control to play the file. If it can't find the control, the users, as I mentioned, you need to install that. So let's look at HTML5 and multimedia. As I mentioned before, HTML introduces two elements, audio and video elements. Before that, we used to use object. So by using these elements, the developers, they can easily embed media into the HTML documents. Another element that has been used for websites for almost 20 years is Flash, or maybe sometimes we call it Adobe Flash. So we can create animation or movie files. Flash files, they have the extension .swf extension, and it requires the browser to have, of course, the Flash plugin to play it. And so since the iOS operating system doesn't support Flash, web developers has embedded the JavaScript to incorporate additional interactivity with their kind of websites. So a lot of people, they use the JavaScript instead. And then the Java applets is basically a small program that has been created with Java program. It's a program, Java is, of course, is a programming language that you're kind of familiar with. So Java applet can be embedded within a web page as well through the browser, must have the Java installed and enabled as well. So that's another kind of a thing that you need to have that Java installed and embedded. Sometimes if it doesn't have it, it would just do it automatically, download it. So the Java applet were very familiar before, at the beginning, maybe 90s. So nowadays in the modern website, they don't use the Java applets anymore. So we can actually use the object element to embed our multimedia that such as Flash, Java applets, ActiveX controls and things like that. So and then the param element is actually going to be used to define those parameters for the plugins that is embedded within that object. So let's look at the example here. So this is the example. So you have the object data audio.wave, and then your param would be autoplay, value is true. So this is your audio file that you have. And the autoplay is the parameter that you set for that param. So what does that mean? Means autoplay is just stored automatically when the web page opens up. The next thing that we are going to look at is how to integrate audio. So adding audio to our web page can actually, we said, will have some benefits, such as maybe you can, set the tone or the mood of our website. Sometimes it can, of course, there are some disadvantages. It could be a distraction for some of the users. So it just, you need to think if that audio is appropriate for your web page and the audience that are going to use that web page. So when you are thinking to embed an audio element, you need to consider to have a purpose, and also you should provide any kind of added value or instruction. You should also consider the time it takes for the browser to load that audio element as well. So sometimes maybe, the user is just there and they want it to load, and that could make the loading time a little bit longer. So maybe that's not a good way to have your audio file in there. One favorite way that the website they can use the audio is to provide link to music files that maybe the user can have an option to download it or play it. So let's look at some of the formats of the HTML5 audio elements. So HTML5 only supports 3 audio files, .mp3, .ogg, and .big. So these supported formatted basically only for HTML5. So they are popular with HTML5. Audio converter, they can be used to convert the files from one audio format to another one, and this is very popular. So you maybe you've created it in some other format, but you can always convert it to these ones that are supported by HTML5. Also, file compression techniques, they can be used to reduce the size of the audio file. So if you need to shrink your file size, because maybe again it's going to take a long time to download that, maybe you want to shrink your file size, and you can use the file compression. But of course, when you compress something, same as you were compressing the images, it can actually diminish the sound quality that you might be looking for. So these are all the common audio file formats that are available, but only 3 of them that have asterisks are being supported by the HTML5. So the other ones you may want to actually convert them to these files. So for file compression, we can talk about the codec, which is some sort of a compression technology that can be used to compare images, audio, and video files. So the codec is a short form for code decode, because it can consist of encoder, which can compress the file, and decoder, which can decompress the file. So an audio editor can use a codec to reduce the size of an audio file while maintaining the quality to play the audio file on our computer. So codec improves the web page load time, but compressing a media file too much, maybe you are gonna lose the quality of your sound. That's something that you might want to think about. But on the other hand, if you don't compress your media file, maybe it can take forever to download, and then, that's not going to be any use. So you need to create a balance for that. So we said in HTML5, we use the audio elements, which you can actually use to define sound, maybe such as music or audio string. The text content should be inserted between the audio and audio close tags, so that you are using these tags. So because the browser don't support the audio elements, ignore the audio tag to alert the users. So basically, this is the list of the audio elements attributes that you can actually use for your audio element. So the autoplay is one that, when you use that kind of a parameter or attribute, it can actually start playing automatically. Controls, maybe you can control it by using play, pause button, loop, it keeps repeating itself. And a muted, specify the audio should be muted. You have that option in there. The preload, specify whether how the audio should be loaded when the page loads. And then the src, which is the source, that specify the URL of the audio file that you are actually looking for. So audio file browser support, as we said, HTML5 supports MP3, OGG, and WAV. But in each of these browsers, you see that the Google Chrome supports all of them, and also Firefox and Opera. But Internet Explorer only might support MP3, and same as Apple Safari. In the next video, we are going to talk about the video files and how you can bring it in and their attributes and how you can embed it into your program.